Message for my people.
Nick Dab, baby. We the new label.
Yeah. Now this the black sheep, sticking it to him. I need a crib like I'm Gatsby.
I need it.
In hand, just understand my
Pockets that deep.
with nothing to prove. I ain't got nothing to do. When they can't compete and I got nothing to lose. You see, they told me I'm the one
back.
that's gonna benefit.
Veterans Minimum, the number one sports betting vibe on the internet. I'm your host, Nick Dais. All things Veterans Minimum are at Veterans Minimum. Programming note, we are recording this on Tuesday evening. Due to NBA Summer League activities here at the studio, we had to record earlier than we usually do. So for you guys listening, we don't know if England is in the final. We don't know if Colombia is in the final. You will know on my social media at Nick Dais 10 if it is the case. But yeah, we do have potential screenshot life, which is always the best life.
Yes.
Sir George Carmona in the
Yeah,
building
whether it's like juicy details about somebody else's conversation, like you're sending screenshots of text, screenshots of bets,
Yeah,
screenshots of butts.
sure.
That was a currency back when we were in high school.
Right.
Screenshots
I'm
are
more
the
of
best.
a for my eyes only kind of guy, though. Like if you send me some goodies to make my day, it's safe with me.
Did you have the calculator app where like it would present it as the calculator, but really it was like a photo vault?
No, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's like a place to hide photos. Now they have the hidden tab, but before that there was like apps, like a calculator, and you'd have to type in like 2 times 2 to the third power
To
and then-
unlock it.
and then you got all your picks.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
When I used to download porn on my computer back in the day, like LimeWire and shit. I don't know if you remember LimeWire.
I do.
But I used to have a folder that was WWE Attitude Era, like pay-per-view names.
Oh my
So if
god.
my mom would open up the computer, it'd be like, "Oh, what the fuck was Bad Blood 1998?" Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
that's what it was. I had another friend that had Barry Sanders highlights, and it was
Oh wow.
fucking triple X uncensored shit.
Dude, their parents, your parents were probably thinking like, oh, I guess WWE's a different type of weird, but like if I saw my son saving Barry Sanders highlights, I'd be like, he's so committed to the game.
Yeah,
he
might be
he
one of them
studies
ones.
the game,
yeah,
bro.
he really cares about
he's
this.
different.
One. Yeah.
No, he's jerking
Nope.
off.
He's just cranking his shit. That's what he's doing. Real quick, let's just run through the Patreon because I'm an idiot and I forgot to do it on the last episode. So
Roll
Isaiah,
call.
if you can pull up the Patreon, please, for us, kind sir. Patreon.com/veterans minimum. If you're watching this on YouTube, youtube.com/veterans minimum. All things are veterans minimum. Shout out to all of you. We are at 75 paid members of the Patreon. If you guys have been following the Euro and Copa America picks, they started off a little shaky, very shaky, but we're definitely up big on these two tournaments. $5 tier gets you into the Discord. $10 tier gets you in the giveaways. $20 tier gets you roll call discounts off merch. Speaking of roll call, we got Daniel Gibson, Mahul Patel, Abel Rezin, Ben Kotzian, Christopher Velasquez, Derek Plates, Dylan Chadwick, Jerry Shapiro, Jordan Riley, Mike Stevens, Mike Wozniak, Nick Crummich, and Thomas Robinson, and as well as Nathan, Laura, and I just saw it. His real name is Brian, but his Patreon name is Craven Moorhead.
Wow.
So
That's
shout out
just
to
as good
him.
as like having a name Mo Lester.
Mo Lester.
Ben Dover.
Ben Dover was like everyone would fucking have that
Yeah.
username or gamer
You
tag.
see it all over Xbox.
all over Xbox.
Now
yeah.
all I see is Hawk Tua. Literally everyone changed their gamer tag to Hawk
Hawk
Tua.
Tua.
I swear to God. It was like 3 days after it happened. It was nuts.
Patreon.com/veterans minimum to support the show. Okay, let's get into this episode. It's going to be a little more NFL centered and not so
Love
much sports betting. I have a couple more like general talking points I want to have with you, and one of them is Ceedee Lamb, right? Big talking point of this offseason has been what's going to happen with Ceedee Lamb. He's been very vocal that he's potentially going to hold out. He's at mandatory mini camps, or he's doing his football camp for kids. He's like, I'm not talking about my contract. He doesn't want to address it. He had a really weird Twitter exchange with Cole Beasley, which, like, bro, Ceedee, what are you wasting your time for, bro? Like,
Yeah.
You're telling him that you're a better route runner and wide receiver than him. It's like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah, we have eyes.
We know,
Mr.
bro.
Lamb.
He's a 5'8" white slot receiver.
He looks like a pirate.
You're clearly better than he is. Right?
Yeah.
My question to you is, Dallas has a lot of big contracts looming. They have to make a lot of decisions on their roster. A cool thing about having a lot of young players be all pros is that you have a lot of young players and the future looks bright. The downside is a lot of their contracts are going to come up around the same time, and you got to make some decisions, right? What are they going to do with Dak Prescott? I've expressed multiple times that it's a very difficult position to be in if you're the Dallas Cowboys, if you're the Miami Dolphins, because you have a Tua and you have a Dak. What do you do with them?
Yeah.
They're good enough to win your division and to get you in the playoffs, but then the ceiling is capped. One of them needs to have home field. If it's under 55 degrees, he looks like he's a
trash
Sunday rec league beer drinking quarterback, which
You're beating up on yourself. I was about to say, dude, that's actually a pretty good performer.
I am too. But then you have Dak Prescott, who, like, what's the excuse now? You were at home and you got thumped by the Packers. The game was over after the first 3 drives.
Yep.
You have Michael Parsons. His contract is he could be extended this year or next year. You have Dak Prescott. You have Ceedee Lamb. Give me the priority list if you're the Dallas Cowboys. What are you doing?
I think the toughest thing to do in football, and especially like an organization like the Cowboys, where their entire existence is kind of predicated around number 88 out there at the receiver position. That's literally one of the staples of the Cowboys. So if they were thinking logically, they need to get rid of that. That's a bad stigma to keep falling into, where you need this superstar wide receiver for people to take you serious. And they need to get back to what made them really good in the early when Ezekiel Elliott first came onto the team, which is you build the offensive line and you run the damn ball. And if you have target or people on the outside to hit, all will fall into place regardless. Micah Parsons is the most important person to keep on the Cowboys when you're looking at him, Dak, and Ceedee Lamb. I think Ceedee Lamb, he's got a lot going for him as far as like the history that I've explained, and he's a stud. He's a certified stud. He's definitely somebody that defensive coordinators are like, we need to have 2 people on this side of the field the entire game. Like, there's no exceptions. Is that valuable? Yes. Extremely valuable. But is it as valuable as keeping games low scoring? That's where defense will always win championships, and you got to prioritize Micah Parsons. I just think Ceedee Lamb's a bit of a, dare I say, like, I don't want to use the word diva, but I just think he's in a really bad friendship with Dak Prescott. You ever just, like, it's not the same feeling you get from Patrick Mahomes to Kelsey and his boys. With Dak Prescott, it feels like he, didn't invite CD to his birthday party type of situation. And CD's heated.
Does the fact that Mahomes has won change that perception for you?
Yeah, you definitely need to be able to get there, bro. That's why
it's a lot easier to navigate through awkward or bad situations if you're winning.
Yeah, you can't consistently not make the Super Bowl. And you can't always just be really good and then just fail. Like, that's how
you can't consistently let your fan base down and validate everyone in the media's thoughts around the same time of year the same way.
Yeah. It can't be. It's literally like their PR team just copy and paste, I would imagine. at this point. Like there's a template made for when the Cowboys inevitably fuck up this way, we just copy and paste and we send that to the reporters. So yeah, I think they need to get out ahead of it and they just need to cut ties
with
Ceedee Lamb.
Oh, that's crazy. I think that I'm not going that far. I think so. Remember when Amari Cooper first went to the Cowboys? That's when Zeke was still kind of Zeke. And there would always be the graphic of the new big three in Dallas, right? Because back in the 90s, it was Aikman, Smith, and Irving. Amari Cooper, that is, was way more valuable to Dak's success than Zeke was. If you looked at the splits when he was in and out of the lineups, if you looked at the splits before he got there, after he got there, he was the most valuable offensive weapon outside of the quarterback. I think the same kind of applies with Ceedee Lamb. I think the reason why I thought Dak was the MVP last year and he would have gotten my votes, he had a career year, best year he's ever had, it also coincides with Ceedee Lamb having 135 for 1749 and 12 touchdowns. Clearly the best weapon on the team. Clearly the only reliable option on that team outside of like Jake Ferguson in the red zone. And, you know, they lose Dalton Schultz, but he comes back and bounces back. You didn't get anything out of Gallup. Brandon Cooks was cool in like certain spots. You'd have like the Brandon Cooks games. So I think Ceedee Lamb is the most pivotal piece to the success for the Dallas Cowboys offensively outside of the quarterback. He's going to be 25 years old this year. He's asking for a new deal. And if you look at the new deals that have been popping up, these are the 5 most valuable contracts in the NFL. And I want you to tell me would you put him as far as like wide receiver you would want, right? And I'm going to base this off average salary. Justin Jefferson, $35 million. A.J. Brown, $32 million. Your boy St. Brown, $30 million. Tyreek Hill, $30 million. Jalen Waddle, $28 million. Devontae Adams, $28 million. Where is he on your list?
He's above Devontae and Jalen Waddle.
So you would have him behind Jefferson, Brown, St. Brown, and Tyreek?
Yeah, I think St. Brown's high on that list. If I was just I know he's my boy, but like that's kind of crazy to me that he was able to pull that out. Is Ceedee that good though with a quarterback that's not Dak Prescott though? That will be the question. Oftentimes I feel like when receivers leave, there's a bit of like I don't know, they're falling usually, out of performance.
Sure, there usually is. Like historically, when a wide receiver leaves, their play is going to drop, especially if they've had continuity with the quarterback all those years. Like the most famous one was Greg Jennings. All right, he leaves, numbers aren't the same. You've had Mike Wallace leave Big Ben. You've had Emmanuel Sanders leave Big Ben, but he goes to Peyton Manning, so it's still his production almost increased.
Right.
When you leave as a wide receiver, you do get paid, but you don't bring the quarterback that helped you get paid.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, there is some validity to that, but I think that also applies to a lot of wide receivers.
Yeah.
Now, there are exceptions, like Tyreek Hill left Mahomes, who is the consensus best quarterback in the league. I've said that any list that don't have him number one, it's a dumb list. And my list is Pat Mahomes, 20 feet of dirt, and then we could start with number 2, 3, 4. And I love Joe Burrow. I love Josh Allen, but that's how far he separated himself. But Tyreek goes to another team, and he has a monster year. I personally think Ceedee Lamb is the second best wide receiver in the league behind Justin Jefferson.
Whoa, you don't put Tyreek up there? Because
No.
when you just mentioned Tyreek, I was like, yeah, I mean, but Tyreek literally is a generational talent.
Without a doubt.
Who will go down as one of the greatest receivers of all time.
Yeah.
I think he's more of a issue than both Jefferson and Ceedee Lamb.
An issue as far as
like a problem for defense. A good issue.
Like a good issue. Okay,
Yes,
cool.
Not off the field. I think off the field. I mean, it's just we have our feelings about Ceedee Lamb and why he's bag chasing because of,
inside sources that we have close to the situation.
Yeah, I mean,
he loves Vegas.
That's all you got to say.
That's all you gotta say.
I just watched the Tiger documentary too about Vegas, so it's fun to see the way that athletes treat our wonderful city. I love it. Gives us a little bit of an insight because he wants to back up the Brinks truck with the Cowboys. Is his performance going to be the same on other teams? I don't know, bro. He was kind of born into this position, like going from where he was playing. He was at Oklahoma, correct?
Yes.
And then to go only less than 250 miles to be the Cowboys star. I mean, he's dominated the Midwest. There's a lot of homey type feel. There's a lot of, they will pay me this money. I know that the Cowboys will, but I'm telling you that the Cowboys will never find that long playoff success without investing into other positions. And they're going to be handcuffed on this. It's a good thing to be handcuffed to, but like they're going to be navigating around this deal for a long time. When you think about players though that are really good, and it's like a good problem to have when you have all these all pros, it is a good problem because he could also give you a lot of trade value. You know? So is it a shorter contract knowing that we can get him to go crazy for one more year and then we get the value of two of him, or picks? Picks have become really valuable in the past.
Do you want to know how how crazy Justin Jefferson versus Ceedee Lamb is? How much in favor it is in Justin Jefferson? Like, I think Justin Jefferson is so far ahead of every other receiver in the league. It's almost laughable. Ceedee's played 66 games. Jefferson has played 60. Ceedee has 3 more catches than him. Ready for this? 700 more yards for Justin Jefferson.
Holy shit. Wow.
Like,
That's
crazy.
crazy.
3 All-Pros to 2 All-Pros for Ceedee Lamb. Offensive Player of the Year. They've both been 3-time Pro Bowlers. But I do think that he's the closest to Justin Jefferson right now. One is 25, one is 24. They'll both be 25 during the season. And I'm paying him, man. I think if you look at how Dak's career has been in Dallas, he's been the most productive when he's had a stud wide receiver, and you can't let him go. And look, the market now, if you're a stud wide receiver, you're gonna make over 30.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's right. He's like, bro, Jalen Waddle, come on, man.
Yeah.
That's
literally
what
when you brought up
happens
the
too
name, I was
sometimes.
like, bro, you're
that
not going to
happens-
pay me more than Jalen Waddle.
That happens too. Like, look, Tyreek signed this deal 2 years ago, and he was the highest paid wide receiver. And then he's looking at some of the guys getting paid. He's looking at his teammate like, I'm not $2 million more than him.
Like literally, I'm a problem.
I'm the reason why he's also successful.
Yeah.
Because no one ever double covers him. And that happens a lot too. And it got to be frustrating if you're a NFL owner, because you deal with all the personalities and all the ego. You finally pay a dude. It's like the Deshaun Watson thing we always talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Browns fucked it up for every other team and their quarterback.
Yeah.
And then this is what happens. New guys get paid, and then the guy that just got paid, he starts to get frustrated.
And the price always is going to go up for the remainder of our existence. It's never going to ever taper
We're going to
off.
see a $40 million wide receiver within the next 5 years, without a doubt.
Do you think it'll be Ceedee Lamb?
I don't think it'll be Ceedee, but it could be like, I'm just saying, it could be a Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
You know, these guys are
And this
20,
next
21.
wave. Yep.
When they're like 26, 27, we don't know what the new NFL deal is going to be like. Yeah, I think a $40 million wide receiver is definitely going to be in play. And then guess what? Quarterbacks are going to be making 60.
Yeah.
That's going to be happening too.
Well,
So,
I think out of all the position groups, that number growing will help our cause for saying that there should be an athlete position aside from just receiver or running back. The discrepancy between some of these contracts are just absolutely crazy.
yeah.
And they got to find a happy medium eventually, because those players that you listed off, I mean, obviously a couple of them don't fit, but if it was in its own bracket of position where everyone's making $30 million a year and you saw some running backs sprinkled in there, you'd be like, oh, well, this makes sense. And then all the other contracts would kind of fall into that $15 to $10 million range. Still a shit ton of money.
I think
Could
it's
be
a
more.
deal that needs to get done before training camp if you're the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's
You
very
can't
important.
extend this past that.
Nah, because then it gets awkward too. And then who knows? Maybe he continues to have a monster year and then he slices you and he leaves for free.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's 30 other teams that would probably line up for Ceedee Lamb
Yeah.
quickly.
Here's part of the reason, just to before you move on this, the body language that he gave me when Dak Prescott had thrown 2 interceptions in the playoff game and the Packers had blown it out of the water and you got to see the crumbling happen that we all talk about. It was dog shit, you know? Like, it's not like the game wasn't still winnable. It was super early in the game, but you can just tell that he quit visibly. You can just see the whole team deflate. And I think, you know, that means something. Who do you think has Jerry Jones's ear more, Dak Prescott or CeeDee Lamb?
Oof, that's a great question.
You always talk to your superstar knows what's happening in the building.
I think I would say Ceedee because didn't they pull the contract on Dak, like clipped it by 2 years? Like they waived the team option and
yeah.
so it's basically he's on like a 2-year deal.
I'd have to look
Kind of
into
tells me like they ain't doing that to Pat.
Bro,
They ain't doing that to Joe Burrow.
It's a Kobe Shaq situation. And one day Shaq walked in and he's like, wait, where's my shit? And Kobe's like, yeah, dog. They were talking to me the whole time.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. I'm excited to see what happens. I think it's it could shift a lot of things in that division and in the futures markets as well. Like if CeeDee Lamb isn't there for the Dallas Cowboys, I think it's gonna be a major talking point. I want to wrap the show talking about this, a segment called More Likely to Fall Off. I have a list of a couple things, sort of like a would you rather, but who you think. So I want to go to the NFC North. Lions or Packers? Both teams made the playoffs last year. Both teams are getting a lot of attention. 2 of the top 5 favorites in the NFC. One went 9-8 last year. The other went 12-5. They split their regular season matchup, and both teams closed out the year relatively hot. You have a new guy in Jordan Love who closed out the year 18 touchdowns and 1 interception. You have Jared Goff, who got paid by Detroit, and now he's been welcomed with open arms in Detroit. If you had to pick one that you think doesn't make the playoffs this year, who would you pick?
I'm picking the Packers not to make the playoffs, but I don't see them falling off. As crazy as it sounds, I do think the NFC is going to present a lot of competition. I think that wild card spot is going to be a double-digit winning team, and I think a lot of good 9-win teams are going to be left out as opposed to this past year was. It's very possible, though, that the Lions step back. Like, the Lions have a very aggressive play style, and a lot of their games last year, you know, it went in their favor. But when you're a gambling team like that, to win 12 games again it's going to be very difficult. I do think the Lions win the division, maybe at 11 wins, and I think the Packers stay right where they're at, if anything, but they miss out on the playoffs.
I kind of think both stay in. I'm not high on the other 2 teams in the division. I'm really high on the Packers. Shit, my way too early. My July 9th pick to win the NFC is probably Green Bay. This is from a betting standpoint. Like, their number is dope. They're 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. Shit, I remember I took a stab on them at 65-1 last year to win the Super Bowl, and they were a Final Four candidate.
Yep.
In the NFC.
They had the game in their hands.
Yeah,
bro.
they did.
They were
and
supposed
what makes,
to be in the Super Bowl.
And listen, or at least in the NFC title game.
Yeah.
And if Jordan Love, I mean, what makes Jordan Love great and why we like him is that he takes chances. I like my quarterbacks taking chances. Now, I don't like you on a first or second down, rolling to your right, throwing across the middle of the field. That's not a chance that I do like you taking.
Right.
I would prefer you don't, but I like that kind of quarterback. And you look at both of the rosters, they're relatively young.
Yeah,
and
super young.
I don't know if they're built the same. I would say Detroit probably has more guys that you would want on your team.
More offensive guys.
Way more.
I think the Packers have more defensive guys.
Imagine if you were able to combine the two, undefeated.
Yeah, I think that division has the best potential with those two teams.
Mm.
Like as far as like dominance
In the NFC, I would agree with you.
It could be a very long time till the Bears or the Vikings make the playoffs.
Well, if by a long time we mean this year, I would agree. But who knows? Maybe Caleb and maybe McCarthy are those guys. I would pick. It is hard, man, because I like what Jared, on the show you guys are gonna hear next week, what Jared was talking about with the Lions and Jared Goff. Fuck, man. I'm gonna go with the Lions just to play devil's advocate. Also, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I'm really high on the Packers. I do think the Lions caught a lot of people by surprise last year, and they've made additions on defense because the knock on them was their secondary.
Yep.
But we got to wait and see what happens with the secondary.
100% agree.
And
with that.
the offense, they keep Ben Johnson, so the offense is going to be good. But now you have more tape now. You have more tape, and you know how everyone and look, the same thing could be said about Jordan Love, right? Because now you have a full year of stats and data, that could be presented as a counter. So we'll see. Staying actually with the Packers, how about this one? They're not second-year starters. They're both second-year starters. One is going into his 5th season. The other is going into his 2nd season. More likely to fall off, C.J. Stroud or Jordan Love?
I think C.J. Stroud has an embarrassment of riches in front of him this upcoming season. And with that being said, I don't see any way in which he can really fail if he brings that same level of confidence that he did last year. So I'm going to go with Jordan Love on this one as far as the quarterback that'll regress more between the two of them. I think because he's such a risk taker, it's not that he's not a top 11, top 10 quarterback in the league. I think that's very evident in especially the MVP voting. But you got to pick one, and I'm going to pick the guy that has less options. I think the Packers were really good at the end of last year with Aaron Jones doing a lot. If Josh Jacobs molds well, I think that bodes well for Jordan Love. But if Josh Jacobs kind of is, in between, I don't think he plays as well.
I like that.
They got young studs for sure.
This is an interesting debate because I feel like both of them, I love second-year quarterbacks. There's a big trend on them finishing as top 5 MVP candidates. They've won MVPs in their second year, and C.J. Stroud fits the mold. Now, if there wasn't all that public hype around the Texans, I probably feel more confident in that and actually betting him. I'm a little hesitant from the betting perspective standpoint. But Jordan Love also kind of fits this mold. Even though it's not his second year in the league, it's his second year as a starter. Jordan Love, 32 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. And remember, he went on an 18-1 run.
Crazy run,
to end the year. And on the flip side, C.J. Stroud, 23 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. I would say the more likely to fall off would be C.J. Stroud, not because I'm pro-Packers, because I think the conference he's in, and now remember, Houston's going to play a first-place schedule. Now you're playing the Chiefs and the Ravens
100%.
And the Bills as opposed to playing the Jets or the Patriots and these other shit teams, the Denver Broncos, right?
Yep.
It's completely different. And people might say like, yo, it's only a 3-game swing. Well, it's like, well, yeah, it's the difference between 10-7 or 7-10 right there, playing the Chiefs as opposed to playing the Raiders or the Broncos. So from that standpoint, I would pick C.J. Stroud because I think the conference is more difficult and the strength of schedule that they're playing is more difficult.
We get to see the matchup October 20th. They're playing.
It's one of the games. It's one of the games that I have circled that I'm excited for.
No, I would imagine like that's going to be electric. It blows my mind when I'm looking at the Packers schedule right now that their last game with the Lions will be December 5th. And I think this is a mistake on the schedule maker's part. I just caught that. How do you not put that as the last game of the season?
Yeah.
I know the Packers always play the Bears, but hey, let's get rid of that snooze fest that always occurs at the end of the year, and let's make the Packers play a tough game.
Yeah, that should have been one to close out. I feel like you got to make that one to close out.
Yeah, bro.
Division on the line and all that. All right. Last one before we wrap. The two guys that finished 1 and 2 as Offensive Player of the Year, McCaffrey versus Tyreek Hill. I would say because of the volatility of the position, and also he's had 2 career years, the 2019 with the Panthers and then last year with the Niners, I would say McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I would say McCaffrey is more likely to take a step back than Tyreek Hill because Tyreek is, less wear and tear. He's one of the receivers that like runs out of bounds or does the
bro.
He does
takes
the
a
move.
knee.
Right. He does the move where he collapses and you're like, holy shit, he just blew out his ACL.
And then
But it's just like he just gives himself
and he
up.
springs back up.
Yeah.
Like he's literally Mario. Just
Just pops back up.
swear,
And
so
I think
funny.
because of the nature of the position, I would lean to McCaffrey being the one to fall off as opposed to Tyreek Hill.
And I think it'll be something that teams prepare heavily for this year. I think at a certain point in time, and here's the crazy thing, he's so good that even when teams are focused in on putting 8 people in the box and making Brock Purdy beat them, that's why Brock Purdy was an MVP candidate last year, because they were like, okay, we're going to make Brock beat us. They start throwing the ball, they get up by a lot, and then before you know it, it's the Christian McCaffrey ends up with 20 touches and 100 yards. And you're like, how did that happen? Everyone else had a really good game, but he just he fills in the gaps really well. Tyreek is a stud, bro. Does he get 2,000?
Nah, I think last year was the year to get that, and he didn't. It's hard, bro. It's hard for you to have a season like that
150
back
a game.
Yeah, back to back. It's tough, dude. That's why there's like a trend in fantasy football where like, last year was the year to have McCaffrey. I don't think this year is the year to have McCaffrey. Remember many years ago, that was the year to have David Johnson. That was the year to have Todd Gurley.
Jonathan Taylor.
What's happened to him since? It's hard for that to be replicated. So
Yep.
I think, it's cool to have, like, I don't think Justin Jefferson should be the number 1 pick in fantasy like he was last year. I would
Agreed.
rather try to pick a Saquon Barkley number 1 and be like, yo, I had him. Maybe he's being drafted 8th, have the
Yep.
balls to take him 1. And if
Yep.
it does hit, it's like double the pleasure.
Oh yeah, we like double the pleasure.
Double the
here.
pleasure is dope. It's pretty popping. Yeah, we gotta
Imagine
say.
pleasure twice.
Pleasure twice. Pleasure once is amazing. Pleasure twice is phenomenal. As opposed to trying to be like, oh, yo, McCaffrey was Offensive Player of the Year. I'm going to take him number 1 again. I feel like it's kind of a square take.
For sure. And I mean, you're making me do a very tough thing on who's going to fall off. The fall offs are literally, they're going to finish 3rd in Offensive Player of the Year.
Right. Yo, these guys McCaffrey could still have 1,400 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns, but it's not the holy shit.
Christian
He might be
McCaffrey is
MVP.
unstoppable.
Yeah. Like Tyreek Hill almost had 2,000 yards. We're saying just that is where I think it could be something where he falls off. And again, like we're talking about like the cream of the crop. These guys are going to still be productive, but we're saying, all right, he's not going to be the number 1 player in fantasy, but he'll be 7th.
Right.
Still a great thing. So we'll see what happens, man. Check out the Patreon. If England and Colombia win their games, I'm going to put out an exclusive. It might be crazy. I'll probably be. I can't be hammered because I gotta edit and shit. But
No,
I'll be feeling nice.
hire out, or I'll help with something.
All right.
Yeah,
Bet. We'll make it.
because you
work.
should be hammered, dude.
I know.
Have you ever done like hard drugs?
No, I've only drank.
Okay. All right, Nick. Maybe it's hard drugs.
Nah.
Yeah.
I can't compromise my morals, even though all that money is gonna be nice if it does happen. It's been a good stretch for the boy.
Just a little bit of LSD.
You're such a bad influence.
Yeah, just 80s music and LSD and then Pele highlights, bro. Like, I know it's the completely wrong team, but like,
Yeah. I like the thought process though. That was
yeah,
fun.
bro, of course.
That was good. All right. At Nick Dais Tennis, you can find me all things Veterans Minimum or at Veterans Minimum. George, where can they find you?
At Mr. George Carmona.
We'll
Boom.
catch you guys next time, and hopefully it's coming home.
In his element, I'm a gold medalist, bronze like your medal is. So many deer in headlights, but it's bedtime. Hear that supper bell, main course be the venison.
Dab. Most dangerous game. killer beat